Okay, so I've made the terrible decision of getting into the Dark Moon Fair line purely because it no longer extends all the way into the middle of Hall C.
Let me tell you a story about the Dark Moon fiasco. Anaheim, California, BlizzCon 2023, Day 2, the Dark Moon Fair. The main hall has been open for less than an hour, and one corner of the hall is already packed shoulder to shoulder with 1,000 attendees. A chaotic, impromptu line stretches from the fair itself several hundred feet away into the adjoining hall. Eyeball estimates suggest that this line is already 4 to 5 hours long. What happened here? Okay, so this story is actually pretty low stakes. Nothing tragic happened, and to the best of my knowledge, no one was hurt, but it's an interesting story about multiple seemingly unrelated decisions that could have easily resulted in disaster had something gone wrong. First things first, the lay of the land. The Dark Moon Fair is situated at the far end of Hall D, which is dedicated to the Warcraft IP and its 4 current games. Themed after the in-game Dark Moon Fair, the area has 5 attractions of note: a merch booth for collectible pins and badges, a Pineapple soft serve food vendor, the Wonderworks toy shop, the Capsule Toy Depot, and the Ethereal Trading Emporium. Additionally, many collectors set up their trade offerings on the picnic benches set up around the fair. Of these, the main attraction is the Capsule Toy Depot, which itself has 3 components. First, a line for buying tokens. Second, a line for the slot machines where you redeem tokens for random prizes. Most of the capsules contain small Velcro badges, though the potential prizes include larger plush dolls, action figures, and redemption codes for various in-game items, which leads to the third component, a line for a window for claiming any prize that doesn't fit inside a capsule. This isn't the first time BlizzCon has had this attraction, and it is always very popular. The ambiance is fantastic, people love collecting, and people love gambling. But there's something more going on. Or rather, there's a lot of stuff not going on. For BlizzCon 2023, Blizzard opted for a more streamlined presentation structure. Ordinarily, BlizzCon features a main stage where all the big presentations happen, and 3 to 5 other side stages for smaller panels like the fan-favorite voice actors panel, cinematics breakdown, sound design, etc. Generally more niche interest stuff. The philosophy this year was to design the halls less around panel stages, which take up a lot of floor space, and more around experiences, gameplay demos, photo ops, and themed viewing areas for watching a rebroadcast of the main stage. Now, there's a lot to criticize about this decision. For many attendees, panels are the experience that they're there for. They don't just want to hear executives and celebrity devs make big announcements on the main stage. They want to hear the people who actually make the thing talk about their craft. But inarguably, the new approach created a streamlined convention. Maybe even too streamlined. See, here's the big thing. Conventions are all about traffic management. You have a certain number of people who can safely fit into the larger space as a whole, but become a hazard to themselves if they get too concentrated. So you try and spread out the cool stuff so it's not all in one corner. You place necessities like washrooms and food a little ways away and distributed throughout the space, and you use things like queues to absorb bodies. With the new approach, you could queue up for a demo or a photo op and, for the most part, still have a view of a screen rebroadcasting the main stage. Unless you wanted to attend that specific event in person, you basically never needed to make a choice between getting in a line or missing an event. That sounds good on paper. In fact, it sounds like the ideal attendee experience. And that's the trap. Panels don't just absorb bodies, though. They don't just move groups of people away from popular attractions into less densely populated areas of the convention. They impose a timetable onto a semi-random distribution of attendees. They give you somewhere to be at a specific time in the future, which imposes limitations on the decisions you make in the present. The Dark Moon Fair 2023 didn't account for many things. First of all, it didn't account for whales. There was, on day 1, no cap on how many tokens you could buy at one time. No one who designed the Gacha capsule game accounted for the idea that someone might walk up and buy $600 worth of tokens, and what that would mean physically for the experience at the actual slot machines. Every token someone purchased also represented a future unit of time that the person would need to spend putting that token into a machine, turning the handle, and fetching their capsule. It also further represented time that some portion of them would need to spend redeeming that capsule for the actual prize. So you end up with the die-hard whales, the dudes who are willing to get in line at 6 a.m. for a 10 a.m. door so they can be first in line to buy 300 tokens and then spend 10, 20, 30 minutes each monopolizing a machine as they crank through these tokens and just completely murder the throughput of the whole operation. But the two halves of this booth aren't evenly weighted. It takes more or less the same amount of time to buy 5 tokens as it does to buy 500, but one of them takes 100 times longer to redeem. So already we can sell tokens faster than we can redeem tokens, and there is no mechanism to prevent someone from creating a truly heinous bottleneck. So the fair has its own internal vicious cycle. The bottleneck creates lines that are so long that people feel compelled to get in them purely out of a fear of missing out on whatever's at the end of that line, which makes the lines longer. It creates crowds so dense that people can't get physically close enough to the booths to even see what the line is for or if they're in the correct one. But then we add the special sauce. Because almost no one has a timetable imposed on them, because they don't have a voice actor panel on the opposite side of the convention in an hour and a half, because they can see all the panels on the screen right next to the line, they make the decision to get in a 3-hour line just to buy tokens.
It's probably a bad sign that the line that I've been in leads up to a Blizzard employee holding a sign that says line closed.
That's how you sell so many tokens on day 1 that thousands of people decide that their first order of business on day 2 is to rush to the Darkmoon Faire and commit to the line hell or high water. And that's how you get a 5-hour line. Now, they did eventually almost sort this out on day 2 at the Fire Marshal's insistence. They capped the line, the entire fair was turned into a gated exhibit, token purchases were capped at 50, and they stopped selling tokens entirely halfway through the day. If you could get into the fair at this point, it was more or less running as it was supposed to. The lines for toys and pins were reasonable, so there was no pressure to commit to a line, which keeps the lines reasonable. But I can't say they fixed it. The damage was more or less done. The line for general entrance basically never stopped being capped for the remainder of the show, and the line for redemptions only dried up because the fair physically ran out of prizes. I don't know how many people bought tokens they never had a realistic opportunity to redeem, but it's definitely not none. Anyway, thanks for watching. I never managed to get tokens or use the capsule machines personally, so I had to take my entertainment from watching this small disaster build over the course of 2 days.